All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. You are at the April meeting of the Multnomah Neighborhood Association. It's a beautiful, beautiful evening here. Thank you for taking time out of a weekday to uh, get involved in the neighborhood. um, we've got a good agenda here today, an engaging one. With a guest speaker, the executive director of Neighbors West Northwest, Darlene Urban Garrett. She'll be coming on at 7:15. And then at 7:30, we'll be discussing the Community Advisory Committee, the Multnomah SRV, and give an update on what's going on with the Good Neighbor Agreement and their expansion. There are materials in the public Google folder for those online that would like to access the agenda and the other support materials. I apologize, I do not have printed copies for those of us that are in person. And here, if I may, real quick. Just to give the folks in front of me a break from being on camera the entire time. First off, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order and review the current agenda. As I mentioned before, there are some changes to the agenda as far as the reports with the emergency neighborhood teams. Other door. Okay. Oh, here we go. Hi. We're just starting. Come on in. And oh wow, people are coming in here. Got another person, two more folks coming in from a person, and then one more on the background. So we have our current agenda, and the previous minutes from the last meeting should be in the public folder for your review. Also, they are also on YouTube because we are a hybrid. We film all of our meetings. So if you'd like to go back and reference things, you're able to go to our YouTube channel and review the information there. All right, it's 7:04, so I'm 1 minute ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about the in category of M&A development. I do want to, I'm sad to have to announce, but glad that he is still participating, that our current M&A treasurer, Tad Davis, has decided to step down from the role as treasurer. In the interim, we have, I've appointed Peter Sampson and Corinne Wallace to act as co-treasurers. And they are tasked through the Budget and Finance Committee right now to help us get our 501c3 books completely in order. Tad will still be participating on that committee, and amongst some other, and also will be our parliamentarian. But just the role of treasurer, I guess, when you're a small business owner like Tad is, you can you have to watch your bandwidth. And so, Tad, I just want to publicly say thank you for all the work that you have done. And would you like to make any kind of a comment while you have the attention of everyone, Tad? Any thoughts on this?
No, nothing to add to that. You stated it well. This really is just about taking care of my business. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Tad. Okay. In the meantime, also, I have appointed Beth Omansky as our land use chair. And also the final report is the Benevity account. Benevity is a giving platform that folks at Nike and Adidas and some of these larger companies have available to allow their employees to make a donation to a nonprofit, and it's matched by the company. And we have enough people, fortunately, that work at those in that area, work for those companies in our neighborhood, where we applied and are now recognized by that organization as a certified nonprofit. So hopefully it'll be a nice little fundraising opportunity for the neighborhood association over the next few years. So yeah, the M&A development, we're going right on time. We're actually way ahead of time here. Let me see if Darlene, are you on right now? Do I see you in the audience? Here, wait a second. Okay, she's a little bit early, or not here yet, I should say.
Moses,
Yes,
it's
Beth.
Beth. If I just may add something to say thank you so much to Tad for agreeing to continue to be our Standing Rules Committee chair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I will do here is, we've got a few minutes for the scheduled time for our guest speaker. Let's talk about, let me see, is Stefan on yet? No. Pam, Corinne, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Would you like to give give a report on what's coming up here, especially the Earth Day? We've got an extra, what is it? 8 minutes here to if we want to talk about it. Okay,
I was
there we go.
muted. Is Corinne here right now? I think she needs to lead Earth Day.
Yeah. I see Corinne over there in the far right. She's not on camera and she's muted.
Hang on. I'm pulling up our agenda. Maybe I can jump down and talk about something else.
Okay.
Ah, here it is.
I appreciate your improv with me here.
Sure. I'll talk about the Spring Garden Park events. So these events are a partnership of the MNA with the Parks Department, and it's a new event series that started in October. At first, we started with 3 stewardship events per month, and now we kind of found that the right pace is probably about 2 per month. And we have a new schedule up showing dates for April and May. We just had one last Saturday. It was a rainy Saturday morning, and the good news is we still got, I think, more than 10 people to show up, including somebody with a baby, and kids were working, and we pulled weeds and ivy and blackberry bushes and invasive species along the east edge of the park. We've got 2 special events coming up. On the schedule, you can see it. It's April 25th. It's a Thursday, and May 22nd, which is a Wednesday. Those events are going to focus on repairing the bamboo of the nest sculpture at the top of Spring Garden Park. And we're going to have special guests from the Regional Arts and Culture Council helping lead that endeavor because they're currently at the end of their contract to maintain that artwork. And we believe it actually will be the last time that one of those work parties will happen to refresh that sculpture. So it's an interesting and important time for the nest sculpture because we'll also be having conversations with the Parks Department and hearing from the community of what should happen to it next, because it wasn't necessarily intended to be permanent at the original time of installation. So there's an opportunity to consider ideas for it to be transformed into something slightly different, even be removed, or all sorts of ideas. So one idea is to put plants around the bottom of it and kind of turn it into a living sculpture and stop replacing the bamboo. The Parks Department seems supportive of that. So we'll just be having an ongoing conversation and at the stewardship events. And also, if anybody has comments on that topic that would like to submit ideas or feedback, they can email communityevents@mnapdx.org. And the other thing I would say about the park is just that one sort of update is that we've been hearing all sorts of different kinds of comments and anecdotes from neighbors about coyotes like in the neighborhood, in the park area, especially around Spring Garden Park. Comments span the whole spectrum of some folks are worried about are any coyotes getting hurt in any way by anything, and then other folks are worried for more of neighborhood child safety and pet safety and that sort of thing. So we are reaching out and trying to work with the Parks Department to also reach out to an entity called the Portland Coyote Project that we recently learned about. It's actually a study being conducted at Portland State University where they're collecting information about coyote sightings and different kinds of human coyote interactions that are happening in the metro area. So they have a reporting forum and they have a bunch of resources to kind of help people know how to best prevent you know, problematic interactions with coyotes and kind of help keep them wild, in essence. So we're doing an effort to kind of try to amplify some of the resources that we're getting from that organization as well, hopefully with the Parks Department. I think that's it for the Spring Garden Park stuff, and wanted to check in if Corinne is here. I don't know if it'd be possible to come back to us when Corinne is able to comment on Earth Day, because I know this is a big topic and I don't want to miss anything if I tried to do it myself.
Agree with you. There's a lot going on for Earth Day in coordinated efforts between us and the Multnomah Business Association. So we can hold off on that for sure. Just bringing up the agenda again and just trying to get some other things done while we wait for our guest. And if they don't show up here relatively soon, we'll just go straight into the next topic, and that's the SRV topic. Let's see, Julie Leet's not here. Our secretary is not here today, but I can give a real quick summary of what we've done over the last 30 days, which is some amazing work. With Julie's leadership, we have done graffiti abatement at locations everywhere from the Chabas house up the street there, right across from Fano Creek Clinic. We have been doing graffiti, painting over the graffiti there at the underpass of Capitol Highway and Multnomah Boulevard, and all along Barber Boulevard as part of our efforts. Her enthusiasm for cleaning up this graffiti is just inspiring. She also was able to acquire and then of course the trash abatement projects. We had recently, 2 weeks ago, we had a solve event where we were on Barber Boulevard. We had 8 to 10 volunteers show up, and we just went up and down Barber Boulevard from the Chevron station all the way up to the old barn and then we also made arrangements through using the network of Southwest Outreach to communicate with the homeless camp that was there behind Les Schwab, and made arrangements for them to get rid of about a bunch of their trash as a part of our trash program when we picked up the trash that we had accumulated along Barber. So all in all, it made a huge difference, and it was a lot of fun. We had some great volunteers show up for that. Next up on that is we have recently acquired in a grant, we're approved for a grant for $4,800 from Metro. And we will be doing 5 separate dumpster days in the neighborhood. 2 of those will be at Stevens Creek Crossing, the apartments as along Capitol Highway. And we're doing this all for free. They have rather large piles of old furniture from previous tenants that has started to really accumulate. And so with this grant, we're going to have that there. We've also been working in coordination with the Ida B. Wells football team. Will be supplying the labor, and we will be driving to specific residences' houses that are unable to bring it to us, and they get a hold of us, and we will go and pick it up for them using the labor from the football team to help us load it and then unload it into the dumpsters. So we're really excited about that one, and we're really happy that we got the money from Metro to be able to rent these dumpsters and to do it real right. We were going to be doing it at the neighborhood house, new location, but the challenge is it needs to be bigger. So we're looking at either having it at Jackson Middle School's parking lot, or we're going to be doing it at either St. Luke's or St. Andrew's parking lot, because they just have much more room for the expected crowds of people that will be coming. The last time we did this, we did it over at the Mac parking lot, and we had lines going up Capitol Highway from the side, because people were really into it. So we knew we were on a good thing, but we just have to, if we're going to do it, we've got to do it in an appropriate space. So yeah, those are the reports from the livability. Oh, and did I mention last weekend, we went through and we finally got that trash picked up underneath the Multnomah Boulevard, Barbara Boulevard underpass. There is still a little bit there, but that we couldn't get, but all that other trash is gone on the north side, and 80% of it is gone on the south side. And that was a concerted effort. We had 10 volunteers show up, just rock stars. And it took us 4 hours to do it, but we got it all done. And then we made arrangements with the city to come by and pick it all up a day or two later. And they actually stopped traffic. I think it was Monday morning to, bring to move it all. There's some amazing photos of how much junk we picked up there. And so it's all part of our livability subcommittee's efforts to clean up the neighborhood. So I'm really proud of that. Looks like we've got, let's see, did she make it?
Um,
I don't know if our special guest has made it or not. I see Corinne. Corinne? Let's do this. Corinne, if you don't mind, can you give your report right now for us and then we're going to just go straight into the SRV. We've got enough to talk about there, and I'm sorry that our guest Darlene is not showed up yet, but yeah. Corinne?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Sure can.
yes.
And my Zoom crapped out on me earlier. So Pam, were you able to share on your portion of events?
I covered
Perfect.
Spring Garden Park, and so we're ready to hit the other stuff.
Perfect. Okay. So I'll talk a little bit about Earth Day, the events that the community committee is owning for that. Did you talk Solve It All, Pam?
Nope.
No,
No,
okay,
just what that wasn't
Perfect.
a Solve event. Sorry, no, we didn't.
Okay. So community events this is our third year in the row where the M&A is partnering with the Business Association on Earth Day. And again, we are hosting a Solve event from 10 to noon to clean up the neighborhood, starting at Meals on Wheels. And our livability and secretary, Julie Leet, is heading that up this year. I'll post the sign up link here in the chat. We have 25 people signed up so far with a max of 40. In the last 2 years, we maxed out the participants. So, and it's been a really fun family friendly event. So I encourage anyone who wants to sign up to jump on it. That'll be from 10 to noon. The Business Association is hosting a few family friendly events throughout the business district, like a scavenger hunt. There'll be a shredding event. I think the Bridges to Portland is hosting a shredding event, I think is what it's called. I can't quite remember exactly. There's some seed packets and seed bombs. There's a consignment exchange happening at the consignment store, all kinds of things. And then the M&A is hosting a community event at the empty lot on the corner of 36th and Troy. And I've brought this up in meetings in the past, but the owner of that lot has given us full permission to turn it into a community gathering space. We're kind of a park. And so we've been working on it. Maybe you've seen us out there. We've been clearing up the blackberries, trimming hedges, trees, ripping up weeds. We're going to have a drop of cedar chips dropped off to kind of clear the lot pre-Earth Day to make it a little bit more refined. And then on Earth Day, we are going to have the City Repair Tea Horse out, which hopefully some of you guys have seen that before, but it's a really spectacular constructed truck that serves free tea to the community to help bring some attention to that space and to help partner with the permaculture events or efforts of this lot. And then we're hoping to gather as much community input as we can on the space, on what people want to see it used for, what they'd like to use it for, what design ideas that they have for the space, and taking input for a name idea for this space. And so we're going to collect that community input on Earth Day. Also, we're going to focus heavily on fundraising because turning this lot into a community park space for gathering and can host meetings there. We're hoping to possibly put a food truck spot on the lot, on the lower section of the lot, live music, just whatever fun ways that you can imagine that you can use that space to bring people together. We want to bring that to life. So we're going to do some fundraising as well, because over the course of the summer, it's going to take a lot of volunteer labor and also volunteer fundraising to get all the supplies that we'll need to turn it into what people want it to look like. So that's our goal for Earth Day. And then we're also collecting volunteer information. So if you'd like to volunteer for a future work party, the tentative schedule is we're going to take input on Earth Day, and then collaboratively work with our committee to come up with a design. We've had a couple people step up who are landscape architects that will help us come up with a design. And then we're going to have a few work parties throughout the summer to actually bring it to life, and then do some native planting in late October. So hopefully the space will be done by the end of the fall or the beginning of the fall, end of summer. So it's really exciting to have this space donated to us from the landowner to allow us to turn this into a community gathering space on such a sweet spot in the neighborhood. And we really need lots of volunteers for it.
Can I say something real quick?
So one of the other things Corinne is working on
Go ahead,
actually,
Pam.
that it seems like a really good idea for Earth Day, because Earth Day is from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And there's a lot of different things that you can check out in the village during the overall festival. Corinne's working on an online Google map that will pinpoint on a map where one of these things is happening and at what time. The idea is to hook it up to a QR code and have some signs out there so people can kind of check it out and say, oh, at 10 o'clock, I can go to Meals on Wheels and I can go to the cleanup event. Or at 12 o'clock, I can go to the Tea Horse next to Healthy Pets, and you can kind of get your bearings.
Thanks,
So we're
Pam.
hoping that could be a helpful thing. Corinne, did you want to mention anything about the booth, the info booth, or is that?
Sure. We had a planning meeting with the Business Association today, and so we're going to have a shared booth with the Business Association and the M&A to have kind of a hub for what's happening on Earth Day, a little information about both nonprofit organizations. I believe the M&A is going to support the neighborhood response, emergency response team. Is that what it's called? NET might also join us as well. And so we're going to, again, collaborate with the Business Association on supporting this community event. So that's all coming together. But we do also need some volunteers for the Earth Day event, because setting up that giant tea horse that has these big wooden wings that kind of shoot out from this truck and create a canopy is quite a community building process to just set this contraption up. We're going to be setting up around 11 and then taking it down around 5. So if you happen to be in the area and want to come up and just lend some helping hands, we would take it. We also have a sign-up sheet that we'll be sending out by the end of the week as well to the community if we need more volunteers. But I definitely invite everybody to come out and see it, and then to give your feedback on what you'd like to see this park space turn into and what you'd like to use it for. I think that's it that I've got for now. I've got it. My 5-year-old is toddling in again, so I'm going to get interrupted. I'm open to any questions or feedback. Where's the Tea Horse parking is coming in on Zoom? Thank you for the question. So the Tea Horse is actually going to park on the lot on 36th and Troy. We invited City Repair to come out and take a look at the space and see if they could fit the truck on there. So they're going to kind of back up onto the slopes spot and have their canopy wings kind of on both sides of the lot, one of them over the slope, and the other one kind of covering the space just in case we have some rain as well. So the Tea Horse will be directly on the lot.
Would it be worth sharing our screen to show the flyer for that event?
Can you?
An image
Yeah.
of
Do you have
Tea
it?
Horse. Well, I don't know if I have permission to share screen here. It's on the community.
Yes, you do. You do have.
You-
permission.
Oh, okay. I will try. Here we go. Oops, that's not right.
Close. We're pretty excited about this. This lot has been empty for a while. The owner of the lot has decided not to develop it anytime soon at all. So he's given us full permission to turn it into something pretty spectacular. So we're really excited about. And we have Westside Watershed is also helping us, and Stormwater Stars is also helping out with the event to make sure that we are creating a healthy watershed environment, and then also any plants that go in will all be native as well and really low maintenance because we're not expecting anyone to maintain the space. So a little bit of wildscaping, I think, is kind of going to be the theme of it. But we would love to get as much help and feedback as we can on the space and what people would like to use it for. And anybody who wants to sign up to volunteer for work parties would be great. And then if anybody has any really creative design ideas, please come out. We're going to have a schematic or a site map where people can kind of pencil in some ideas on what they want to put on the lot. And so we would love to get we really want this to be a very collaborative community space driven by what people want it to turn into. So.
And if anybody here at this meeting is interested in like helping set up the T-Horse or anything, how should we have them get in touch? Just on email? Should I put that in the chat? Okay, we'll do that. We'll put that in the chat. So here's our T-Horse flyer. This is a drawing by Mark Lakeman, the founder of City Repair, of the T-Horse. You can see it's a pickup truck with big wings, and there's a lot of cushions and rugs underneath, and there's mugs where you can get tea, and they serve out of the back of the truck. So it's really a lot of fun.
Right on. Very good. It is 7:28. You guys, thank you very much for helping me fill in the gap. We'll get back to committee reports here in just a moment after we have our discussion on the Safe Rest Village. But I do want to mention one thing, two things, actually. The one thing I was really impressed with the T-Horse is that it seems like such a simple concept. You go and you're just getting some tea, but I was really pleasantly surprised how it really built a sense of community when we had it during the summertime. And it's a lot of fun. And so I'm really, if you'd like to help them out, please do with that. Also, I just want to make a quick comment. That little park right there by Healthy Pets Northwest, that could have so much potential. So if you have any ideas or if you want to contribute any time to help us with our development of that, please, by all means, get in touch with community events and Pam. And I'm really excited to see what we can do with that. And we've got the owners of the pet store are enthusiastic about what we can do. So that's
I'm going to say one last thing that I did not mention is that we have a goal to raise, just on Earth Day, to raise $1,000 from participants showing up. We're going to have a QR code with our PayPal, maybe set up Venmo by that time, but then we're recruiting local businesses to match that $1,000. So great opportunity to donate and have your money matched so that we have the resources we need to turn this into a wide open, inclusive community space. Very good. I think your son passed you a note through the door there, Corinne, by the way. Okay, very good. Hey, let's, thank you. Thank you very much for the report. Okay, I see Hendrik and I see Lottie from both from the city of Portland are here. So it is exactly 7:30. Fantastic. I'm going to give the platform to you folks, and you're here to give us an update, and then we're going to talk about the Good Neighbor Agreement after you folks are after you talk. So thank you for being here, Hendrik, Lottie.
Yeah, thank you all for letting us join you tonight. Before we share any information, I think we'll just take a quick moment to introduce ourselves. Many of you already have seen or heard Lottie and I, or seen our emails before, so maybe we'll start and then we have a new face joining us as well. But I'll start. My name is Hendrik Brokelschen, and I'm a policy and outreach advisor in the mayor's office.
Hi, everyone. I'm seeing lots of familiar names and faces. My name is Lottie. I use she, they pronouns, and I am the community engagement coordinator for City Shelter Services. And I have the great pleasure of asking our new shelter operations manager, Scott, to introduce himself.
Thank you very much, Lottie. Thank you, Hendrik. It is nice to be with you all. I hope it's a pleasure to introduce me. I like to think so, but I'm never sure. I really appreciate being given the opportunity to come this evening to talk with you all about this and to continue the great work that my colleagues and the community you all have done here. This is my 4th week on the job. as the shelter operations manager. I'm learning every day. Just as a background, for 20 years, I managed probably the largest emergency shelter program system in California, if not the country. I've worked in homelessness in a variety of capacities, building large scale health, emergency, and permanent housing programs, primarily in Southern California. And I'm very excited to be here doing this with you, and look forward to learning more. Thank you.
Thank
Great.
you, Scott.
Yeah. So, Hendrik, do you want to start?
Yeah, our primary goal for today is to share with you our conceptual site design for the larger Multnomah Safe Rest Village site. And so Lottie has put together a very brief presentation with just a couple images to share with everyone. Our goal afterwards is to hear if you have any feedback or comments you'd like to suggest to us. We are the outreach team. We do presentations, we get a chat with you in person or in these presentations and get feedback. And then we are going to bring that to our site development team. So that's our goal for today. I know we received an email that people might have additional questions or other topics to bring up. We'll have time after we share this information. So we're looking forward to that, and I'll pass it on to Lottie.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Do you all see the PowerPoint over here?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I sent a mailer with this approximately, I think, a month ago. Just as a refresher, this is the general plan. This is the site as it is now with the general plan for construction. In this middle section here, you can see the current size of the site and where all the pods are located currently. So just to give a general overview of, where we are now and where are we going, right? So we're all familiar with this, with how the site looks. So just as some prep, what I'm about to show you is not fully through permitting, but it is very close. It is a conceptual drawing of the site that we are the site design we are working on. There are some things that we've already received feedback on. For example, the light that is shining into neighbors across the street on Multnomah Boulevard. We're working to change that to an LED light bulb and turn it around. There are some things that are still in process with permitting bureaus. So I can't speak fully to what the design is going to look like yet, but I'm happy to share what it looks like now. So moving forward to that. Let's see. Great. So this is the site design that we are currently working with. You'll notice if you actually sit down and count the number of pods, there are more than 100 units on the site itself. However, there will only be 100 sleeping units themselves. The extra units are what we're calling waiting rooms. We're still in conversation with All Good Northwest about what those are actually going to be used for. Urban Alchemy, for example, has a microwave in them, and a staff member usually sits in them, so it's a bit closer than the kitchen, but All Good is kind of processing that. Additionally, if you've driven by the site, you might have noticed the fence has already been built. It is 7 feet tall. We are also adding, the bathroom units are located in the central part of the site, as well as the southern part closest to Multnomah Boulevard. Each bathroom unit contains 4 stalls. Each stall contains a shower and a flushing toilet, as well as laundry machines, both a washer and a dryer. There is a gathering area in the center of the site that will be covered. However, we don't imagine this as the only gathering area on this site. There are potential talks, and we're still working on this with All Good, where there might be a community garden somewhere else, a picnic table placed more in the green areas over on the back side of the big armory building, but that's still in discussion. We're not entirely certain of that yet. The big things I definitely want to highlight with you all is, after conversations with different neighbors on the fence line and across the fence line, we have moved pods away from the fence, from the house here. we have placed three, 4, 5 storage units across this part of the fence line. Those will all be for storage, and they're also for noise mitigation for the neighbors on that part of the property. So all of those pods have been moved in. Additionally, there are no pods in this back area of the site for similar reasons of noise mitigation for the neighbors over there. Checking my notes. So the Sears Armory building itself, we are planning on using it for as a comfortable place for folks to receive case management services, have meetings, administrative services, and potentially a kind of daytime gathering space that is covered for participants. Other things I kind of want to highlight. So the pods here are going to be, they're called lit units. I don't have a picture of those here, but if you've seen images from some of our other shelters, including Reedway, they are similar looking to the pallet shelters that are on the site now, but they're just a little bit more durable and more well insulated. Our development manager, Michelle, has been working with them and stress testing these since the beginning of our program. So the units going in here are a new design that has better roofs and a more durable lock on it that is digital, as compared to the less durable key locks that we found don't tend to hold up to the stress of the use that they're in here. They're also 8x8. Are there any thoughts or initial reactions to, I know we just threw a lot of information at you. So I am happy to take a moment to process, for folks to process that. Are there any initial thoughts to what I've brought up today or this design itself? I will say this is also going live on our website tomorrow, and a mailer is going out with this conceptual drawing to your neighborhood in the next couple weeks. So for those who live in the area, if you want to spend some time with this before providing your thoughts, you will also receive it that way, and hopefully have a copy in your mailbox within the next week or so.
Hi, Lottie, this is Lisa Carney Fenton. Can you hear me? I live directly across the street from
Yes.
Multnomah, from the line of pods that are at the bottom there where the trees are. So
Yes.
I am 50 feet from those small pods. As you know, our neighbors have expressed concern about the festival lighting that you have up all over. So I've been looking around the city and I see that other people have that string lighting. I call it night market lighting, which I'm not sure meets city code. My dad was a developer, and when he did projects, he had to do all this lighting mitigation. So around, you can put caps over those party lights to dim the lights. Other facilities. So I'm wanting to know how you're handling the lighting.
Yeah, so
Architect. I talked to an architect, and they also talked about what it's called ballast lighting, where it's walkway lighting as opposed to overhead lighting, because right now you only have 30 pods in there. It's way too bright and comes into our house all night long. And now you're going to triple that size. Going to be like a giant glow ball over there piping into our house 24/7. And it's just not acceptable.
Hi, Lisa. So yes,
And there's many ways to solve the problem. Many ways to solve the problem.
Hi, Lisa. I appreciate that comment about the lighting. So for now, we are planning on continuing with bistro lighting. We are in communication with the development team about potential ways that could be remedied. I appreciate you bringing up caps on the bistro lighting. That is something that Hendrik and I can look into to see if that's possible, and what other potential solutions are available to continue mitigating lighting into your home.
Okay, so you understand what I'm saying. It's like a night market over there. It's bright. They're strung all over the place. It's like you're having a big party, and it's constant.
Yes, I understand and appreciate your feedback. So it's something we can take back to our development team and see what kind of ideas that they potentially have to mitigate that issue for you.
And where is the dumpsters, the loud banging dumpsters that go at 6 and 5 a.m. in the morning, disrupt our sleep when it comes every day? Where are those located?
So those will be located right here by the entrance. for pickup. The truck will drive through here and be picked up right here. We are still, if the garbage is still coming early, I appreciate you letting us know. We did follow up. Our team did follow up with the garbage people, but if we need to follow up again, we appreciate you letting us know.
Okay, and then what are you doing for noise mitigation after hours? Slamming doors, screaming and fighting, and all the problems we've endured for the last 2 years. How are you mitigating those?
Yeah. So again, we are going to continue to staff proportionally to the size of the site. There are mandatory quiet hours that All Good has that start at 10 p.m. If folks are not enforcing those, I appreciate you letting us know, because firstly, we would ask always that you call the shelter and ask what's going on to see if they can mitigate the issue themselves. If the issue is not being mitigated appropriately, we appreciate you following up with us, because I and Hendrik can follow up with Aaron Scott as well as our operations manager to figure out the best way to resolve that issue and let you know what our plan is programmatically to make sure that issue does not continue long term.
Okay, so as you know, co-chair of the Friends of SRVs for Safe and Clean Areas Around. And what I'm asking of you, and what we've talked about previously, is I don't want to keep calling. I call every day. If it's not for the foil and straws next, if it's for the needles in the neighborhood, I'm constantly reporting, and it feels a lot like forced volunteerism. I am asking you to hire someone who works there, so when there's noise, the staff at the SRV deal with it. Why do I have to keep calling and constantly intervening in a situation that's not under my control, that I'm not supervising? Certainly the people that work there can do that part of the job. Can you explain that you can have that done at the site?
Yeah, and I'll jump in here. That is absolutely the goal with proper staffing. I think the best way to answer that, if that is a problem and continues to be a problem, that is kind of the hope for our monthly community advisory committee, is where you can say like, hey, I've told this to you, you said you were working on it and it's not happening. The constant feedback that we want is to say, okay, we got it. Let us work with the site provider, because we agree that that's, a challenge for everybody. And we're not saying that everything's going to start off perfect, but
lastly, you have breached and broken the trust of the immediate neighbors. You told us that it takes a month or longer to get problems resolved. We're no longer waiting for a month to get a car removed. We're no longer calling for a week and a half to get a barking dog dealt with. We're done with all we're gonna meet with you and we're gonna help you. I tried to get IT to get involved in this process, and I have been excluded from that for a month now. They're of exclusion that excludes immediate neighbors, and it kind of selects certain people that are involved in the CAC. So, I don't trust what right now. I guess we're going to have to move forward, and we're going to have to rebuild that trust. The site and the history dealing with the city of Portland people is broken.
I do want to talk about the CAC for a minute. For those that are in the audience, the CAC stands for Community Advisory Committee. The Community Advisory Committee is a committee that was formed in the Good Neighbor Agreement that we have been negotiating with the city and with the providers in regards to the Safe West Village. Right now, there are 3 people on this Community Advisory Committee: myself and Charmaine Yaslata and Will Fuller. As part of the Good Neighbor Agreement, which we are expanding, the Multnomah Neighborhood Association will have 4 seats on that committee. And the challenge is that we just don't have the Good Neighbor Agreement fully done yet. It's about 98% done. I know that there has been we just have to finalize it and sign it. And the goal was to do that at this meeting today. Unfortunately, timing of the review from the city and the changes that have been made, we were not able to have a vote on that because it's not fully finished. I know that there has been also some concerns about the map of, how is it referred to in the GNA, Hendrik, I might need your help here with it. The area of influences, in other words, the surrounding areas and mitigating the impact, identifying and mitigating impact from unsanctioned camping or of graffiti or of trash in the immediate area, specifically around the Safe Rest Village, including it. And I do want to mention that the map that you pointed out in your email, the black lines is the parameter, not the blue spots within the map. The black line is the parameter, and it goes all the way down to Southwest Hume at 35th and goes over. We've acquiesced exactly to what you had wanted. As far as that area, it's the black border. So I just want to point that out. And those are the areas that the service provider has agreed and the city has agreed to have ambassadors, if you will. That's the term they're using, but in other words, patrolling these areas to be able to identify problems immediately so that we can start to mitigate them. So, if we're once the Good Neighbor Agreement is approved, yes, I'm happy to appoint more people to it, but we don't have technically, until we get the Good Neighbor Agreement signed, technically, we really don't have a good community advisory committee because we're just going along with the intent of the Good Neighbor Agreement at this moment in time. It's at this point of the game, we're trying to get the Good Neighbor Agreement finalized. I live very close. I am not across the street like you. But what I can say, and this is what we did last time when we had the Good Neighbor Agreement before, when they had it smaller, is that we had a team of folks from the neighborhood participating in the process and developing the document, taking into account the input from neighbors like you. And we have done that with this situation as well. If I understand correctly, the only challenge that you had with the Good Neighbor Agreement was, as it is right now, was that map.
The challenge I have with the Good Neighbor Agreement is, first of all, has the Multnomah Neighborhood Association hired an attorney, like it said, to review it? Has the
Like
city,
this.
it says in the first page of the thing that an attorney has reviewed it on our behalf. Have we hired an attorney to review that document?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not sure what you're saying there.
Okay, I'm sure the city of Portland's had their attorneys look at it, and I'm sure the Joint Office of Homeless Services had their attorneys look at it. Have we had an attorney review that document?
Lisa, it does not say that an attorney has reviewed it, but that anyone can if they would like to.
Has the city of
Not a
Portland
it's not a legally binding document in any way.
I know. So has the city of Portland had an attorney review the document?
No.
Okay. Then why are we, it's a rope-a-dope, it's not enforceable.
If I can jump in here, I can understand that there's been a past situation with a GNA agreement that had never been signed. And, that I don't think that was an ideal situation. And I'm sure that there's a lot of mistrust currently, and I can totally understand that. What our goal right now is to get this agreement processed and signed. And the agreement isn't supposed to be a document that anyone brings to court and tries to argue about. What we're trying to do is create a partnership, an agreement to work on a situation that is not ideal for anybody, not the neighbors, not the city of Portland, we're dealing with a challenge, and we have these Safe Rest villages in every district of the city. And
Right.
our goal as a team is to bring value to the neighborhood around these sites. And that's what we're trying to do. And we're putting that in this Good Neighbor Agreement document. So this extended engagement map is covering the neighborhood and neighborhoods directly around the Safe Rest Village. It's an area that's significantly larger than the previously outlined 250 feet boundary. We worked very closely with our city partners at the Street Services Coordination Center to have them commit that they're going to work with us in that area. We've worked with the site provider in the county to establish new positions called neighborhood ambassadors that will walk around that area regularly to do reporting, so that that's not something that stresses the neighbors and makes it feel like that's the only mechanism that's getting information to us. It's meant to address impacts that might arise due to the location of that Safe Rest Village. That's what we're trying to do. And I know we need to earn trust in that process. Some of the things that we're hoping can show that is, we had some challenges on Southwest 25th, and now we're working on putting no parking signs there for that small section to address that. There were some vehicles there. It took a little longer than we would have liked, but we found a good resolution for that. And we're going to continue to do these things and work with this community as problems or challenges arise. That is our goal, and that is what the GNA represents. It's we're here, we're going to meet monthly, we're going to hear what's going on, and if challenges continue to arise, we will problem solve, even if we have to get creative. But the GNA represents that. So that's what we're trying to
Okay,
do.
so you're saying that moving forward, starting today, that some 1 or 2 or 3 adjacent neighbors will be on the CAC to be able to have dialogue with the finalization of the GNA. Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say anything to that. That's
So how do we get a seat at the table?
Moses,
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about that. Let us get the GNA finished.
Well, no,
We
the
need
whole
to
point
finish
is
the
we need to stay at the
GNA.
table before it's finalized. That's the whole point, and that's been my comment for the last 2 months. We're excluded from the CAC, which is finalizing the GNA, which is directly affecting what's happening across the street from my home. And Frank tried to get a seat on the table. He's not been on. So
a
there are
diff-
3 or 4 people that are willing to volunteer.
Okay, no, wait a second, back up for a moment. The Good Neighbor Agreement, we had formed a team of folks, a negotiating team to represent the broad opinions of everybody, including the adjacent property owners. Frank is on that team.
Right, but the
And the
CAC,
CAC is a separate situation here,
you're
right?
excluding people.
I am not excluding anyone.
You told me
I
could
am-
be- okay.
Look,
So
I'm not going to
first-
get into a back and forth.
I
with
want,
you.
I just
This
want to
is- this is a
emphasize, I'm
me-
going to
we have
emphasize
much.
to you, I'm going to emphasize that the CAC is exclusionary. It's a closed meeting and it's held at 1 o'clock on a Thursday. No working person can attend that meeting. The Neighborhood Association meetings every Tuesday at 7 p.m. because it's apparent that people that work can attend. So the CAC is exclusionary. It does not have anyone on it that is adjacent to the site.
You're sharing your
And now
screen,
I'm asking
Lottie.
to be on it. I've asked for over a month and you're still excluding me from that, being on that grouping. So do you want to speak to that in front of everyone and from the whole neighborhood association? Explain to them why you're excluding an adjacent member from participating in this site development, site plan, and how to mitigate the problems across the street from my home.
Am I mayor? I didn't realize I was
No,
mayor
you're
of
just
Portland.
taking.
I just, no,
And you need to answer to it. You're head of the neighborhood association.
what I did was I brought together the negotiating team that had representatives on it. The CAC is a part of, the Community Advisory Committee is a part of the Good Neighbor Agreement. The Good Neighbor Agreement team has representatives on it with looking out for your best interests as part of developing that document. Right now, the CAC has zero power. The CAC has zero impact at this
They
point
meet
because it's
every week.
not
They
really
meet-
official.
We meet with all the parties involved. They don't represent my elderly neighbor who's down the street who's vulnerable. They don't represent the little 3-year-old up the street who's vulnerable. They only represent the grade school kids across the street. What about the other vulnerable people in the neighborhood who need representation, who live adjacent to the site? You need to make a place for 2 or 3 adjacent neighbors on the CAC, before the Good Neighbor Agreement is finalized to move forward and represent everyone.
All right, well, we have 4 minutes left on this topic, and you're,
Lisa,
we'll
can
get it
I
going.
will speak to you real quick, and I understand and hear that you have been really frustrated throughout this whole process.
Two years. 2 years you've been there. I just want to remind you, 2 years.
Yes. And I hear you. And I know our engagement process has not been perfect. I know that. I hear that. We are doing our best to build the most effective engagement process going forward. And we really want to get this GNA signed so that all representatives can be heard. And Frank is, as Moses just said, is on the GNA negotiating committee, working with all of us to make sure that it's a document that is successful for all of the parties involved. The shelter operator, the county, us, the neighborhood association. All of those folks are at the table, and we're speaking to all of those folks. We're here talking to you today. And I hear that you are extremely frustrated, even about the time. You know, if it's when we reconvene the CAC after the GNA is signed, that can be a point of conversation about if we move the time, whether that's something that folks want to do. You know, the neighbors are not the only folks in that group too, right? Like the shelter operator is there, Aaron attends that meeting, the school attends that meeting, and we need all of those folks in that room. So it's a group discussion, not just focused on any one. There's not any one group that's more important than any other. And we're really looking forward to having a signed document to make sure moving forward that this is as successful as it can be. And I hear you and I understand your frustration. But we really need everyone to work collaboratively together and I really want to say that Moses has done a really good job and Will has done a really good job of voicing those concerns to us and making sure that we can hear those concerns from both them and from you so that we can come to a proper solution for all groups involved.
Put up your whole hand.
Mr. Welch?
I'm actually Bill Southworth. Welch is my wife's name. Penny Welch. I'm on her computer. What I'm hearing here, having done a lot of work in conflict resolution over the years here and abroad, is that there's some difficulty here in terms of what's known as stakeholder analysis. And it's one of the more frequent problems that comes up when situations like this, when a group comes together to work out, solve, or continue to try and solve problems, that one or more of those groups are left out. And what I'm hearing from the person who's there at the church meeting there is that she represents one of those groups, which is those most impacted. In other words, this is what I'm hearing from her. That's her message. And that's the group, by the way, that is most often left out and to the detriment. So I got a lot of work because those kind of things happened a lot. And I would be more than happy to send Hendrik or Laudi a copy of from one of my training manuals that has that list of stakeholder analysis. And if that might be of help to you to make sure that you've covered all the bases. Because if you leave any of them out, I will guarantee you will continue to have problems. And that's what I'm hearing. And I'm seeing some nodding. Someone else who would know about this as well. So I'll tell you what, if you send me an email to bill@healingleaders.net, and then I'll return that and send you a copy of the stakeholder analysis. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
The other thing is that the actual most frequent problem, that's number 2. The most frequent problem is that the problem and its root causes are not identified well enough. There's an 80-20 rule in problem solving. you spend 80% of your time in what is known as the problem space, figuring out what the problem is and why it's happening. And then you will only need 20% of your time to come up with solutions. And in every instance that I've run into, it has been exactly the reverse. Anyway, that's it for now.
Thank you, Bill.
Sure.
Patrick?
Just a point of information. Who is currently the commissioner overseeing this process? And that's one question. The second is after the reorganization of the city government, who will be overseeing this process?
Sure.
Specifically an elected official. The reason I'm asking is, with all respect to you guys as conduits, you are not decision makers in this situation. And I think for people like Lisa and just a large extent myself that have some objections about the whole concept as well as the specifics, going to an elected official or officials that actually have some decision making capacity in this regard is the most effective way, or can be the most effective way of affecting change. So you can please take back all the feedback you're getting, but it's through a filter. You can't help it, and we need to communicate directly with decision makers in this regard. So who's the commissioner right now overseeing this project?
So I do want to say that Hendrik is a staffer of the mayor's office. There are people from elected offices in this room currently. And we don't have necessarily a commissioner over us. We're in the Office of Management and Finance, which is its own kind of bureau that interacts with a bunch of different bureaus all at the same time. We work most closely with the mayor's office, and the mayor's office is overseeing a lot of our direction and our work, and have been really important in spearheading the engagement in some of our larger sites, including Clinton Triangle and the site that we're currently in the early stages of, North Portland Road. In terms of the new form of government, we are going to be under a new program called Portland Solutions that reports directly to the chief administrator, the chief administrative officer. We're not in any of the, I forget what they're calling the subgroups, but we're not in any one of the smaller groups that reports to a deputy city administrator. We also will be joining Civic Life, the Public Environmental Management Office, the Impact Reduction Program, the Street Services Coordination Center, and a few other organizations within Portland Solutions.
All right, thanks for that information.
Yep.
Yep.
I want to say I really appreciate, I think I can speak for Hendrik and myself when I say I really appreciate today's conversation. I know it's not been easy. I know this is controversial, and I understand that this is not news that everyone is necessarily excited about. I hear you. I do want to reemphasize what Hendrik said, that we are not just expanding here. We're not just building here. This is happening all over the city. There are, and I want to remind folks of this, there are over 6,000 unsheltered people living in the streets of Portland right now. And until there is enough housing to meet that demand, we as a city feel very strongly that we need to expand all of our services as much as we can to meet that demand.
Right on.
That's the situation we're in.
Okay, Lottie, I do need to make sure that Mr. Peter, here, Jim, wait a second. Go ahead. Jim, go ahead.
Property across the street that's complex. I've sent you a lot of emails. They've all gone unanswered, like the questions I asked at the last meeting you were here. Maybe you can get to those when in your spare time. Now, it appears from the site plan that there's not enough parking. And it also appears if the garbage truck goes in, it won't be able to turn around. It's illegal for the garbage truck to back up onto Multnomah Boulevard, especially, and it won't be very quiet with the buzzer going off, backing up. Now, so far in the last 2 years, I have seen nothing All Good Northwest has done nothing outside of the fence. The 3 vehicles got towed about a month ago, got towed because I informed the city that there was a fire hydrant there. And 2 of those vehicles drove away and they weren't licensed. The city allowed those unlicensed, not registered vehicles that were not safe to drive out on the public streets. I find that appalling.
James?
Now, I also mentioned that there was a needle that was across the street from right across from where the flagpole was on the other side of the pedestrian walkway, and nobody picked it up for over 2 months. It went through all the emails. I sent you pictures of it. I ended up calling 311 myself and it got picked up. Where was All Good Northwest? Where were you guys? Did you walk down that stretch? I want to know.
Hi, James. So I can definitely speak to your first question. That's why we're going through the permitting process. We will allow for enough room for the garbage truck to make sure that it can turn around and exit the property legally. That will be a part of the permitting process. So it might be moved after, this, as I said, this conceptual drawing is not finalized. So if there are changes like that that are necessary, we will account for those and update the design as needed so that we can run a safe village that is permitted and legal by the city of Portland.
All right, thank you. There's one last person with their hand up, and that would be Amanda Fritz. Jim?
Hi, so the site was acquired for emergency management, and I recognize that we have an emergency with people living outside, and I certainly support the Safe Rest Village. It looks like there's no room left under the expansion for any kind of West Side emergency management. Is that correct?
So I can't speak to that for now. We did buy the site from FEMA last year. So the city of Portland actually owns the property outright now. I don't think there is a plan right now for the West Side Emergency Center, though I can't speak for PBEM and what their kind of thought process is on that, but they have moved out of the buildings for now.
So I would be interested to get more information about even, like the storm we just had. There used to be gravel stored on the site. There used to be vehicles stored on the site, and it looks like there'll be no room for that. It seems like there should be a plan for that before the village is expanded, and you just said it's going to be permanent.
I don't think it's going to, we still see this as a it's a temporary, it's permitted as a temporary village. The city of Portland itself just owns the property fully now. I just can't speak for PBEM and what their plan is, Scott. I don't know if you've been given more information on that. Or Hendrik.
There isn't another place on the west side because we looked for them. So that's really of concern to me.
Thank you. Okay, it is 8:10. We have about 5 more minutes. We've gone 45 minutes. We're already 10 minutes over the scheduled time here. I see Patrick Brunette's hand up. It's what? Pardon me. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hello. I had a question about insurance providers. Each facility has the same provider. Who is that insurance provider?
Do you mean shelter operator? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Each facility, do they have their own insurance provider? For liability?
Yes.
Who is the insurance provider for this particular facility?
So our site providers have their own insurance, which they have covering their work, and that gets approved by the city of Portland, but it's the provider's specific insurance.
So for this particular facility, who is the insurance provider?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I can look into that.
Okay. And the thing about the background checks, your folks that work at these facilities, if there is no background check, how do you deal with somebody that has had a problem in the past with mental health or criminal behavior, if you do not have background checks, how do your caregivers or your caseworkers know how to proceed with an individual, management of an individual's case?
So I'm sure Scott can talk a lot about this, but generally what all shelters do is they have an extensive intake process. And it's not so much to screen participants, but it's to understand their background and where they're coming from, what their convictions are, what their diagnoses are, what their mental acuity is as an individual, to help develop what their care plan is going to be within the shelter, right? Because every person has their own journey. Every person has a different level of need. So it's on the care coordinators, the case managers that are on site to develop a plan for that participant that is effective for their own needs and their own journey into a more stable living situation.
Recently, there was an article in the Willamette Week about goings on at the Clinton Triangle. A lot of the article dealt with the people that work for the facility using drugs and also people, what's that? And selling drugs. Can you respond to that? These are people that work for the facility. This was in last week's Willamette Week.
So firstly, I want to clarify, Urban Alchemy is not running this site. They are running different shelters. All Good Northwest runs this particular shelter. But the response would be the same of if there are, issues with an employee if there are allegations made against an employee or their conduct is not in line with what either All Good or ourselves would like to happen on site, that person will be placed on leave and will be receiving the proper disciplinary procedures for whatever their issue is, right? Just like with any employer, if I was doing a bad job, my employer would handle that conversation and that management of what that disciplinary process would look like. We have that expectation across all of our shelters. So, we would trust that All Good would pursue that process, take it seriously, and find out what's actually going on and what the proper remedy is.
What is the remedy if if a resident is using drugs on the premises? What is the protocol exactly?
Scott, do you kind of want to talk about that?
Sure. I'm sorry.
What happens? You find out that someone is using drugs or selling drugs. What exactly?
Sure. So first off, we have to have the proper understanding of what the point of the shelter is and what we're trying to do and what we're working to do. We are working to meet the needs of folks who are desperately sick and poor and have all kinds of issues, 6,000 of them or more. When we engage with folks who come through the door who are desperate to get well and try to get their life back together, all of those issues are things that we work to address in the intake process that Lottie mentioned. If it is family reunification, if it is substance use disorder, if it is mental health, all of those things, we work to get the best result for all of those, all of our guests and folks who come through the program. With regard specifically to drug or alcohol use, the goal is to intervene as quickly as possible to get folks out of bad situations and into good ones. That means if there are people who are actively addicted, and of course there will be, because there's people who are not homeless who are actively addicted, but for these folks, we will work to get them into drug rehab. We will work to get them into higher levels of care that will help them get to be the best version of themselves. So we obviously don't want anyone using those substances on our sites. We work to address it, though. The system of simply arresting and throwing people out hasn't worked in Portland ever, and it doesn't now. The better way of doing it is to address those issues with the goal of helping that person get well. And so any all of the staff, we're going to work to mitigate any negative behavior, whether it's drug addiction or, fighting or personal behavior or any of those things. So there's no one size fits all, but obviously the intervention will be swift and it will be thorough to help folks get well.
What is the consequence if you find out that someone is using or selling drugs? What happens exactly? Exactly.
Well, if you're looking for there to be the best result for someone who is there trying to get well, I just mentioned that we will work immediately to get them the resources they need. If there is violent behavior,
What do you mean by resources?
that means intervention from rehab, from all kinds of whatever's appropriate. We have resource access for folks to go to sober living, for folks to go to drug and alcohol rehab, to go to, there's a variety of those things. And I'm not sure how familiar you are.
What if they don't want to do it? People that use drugs like to use drugs until they absolutely cannot.
Well, can I ask you, what would you like to have happen?
I do not think that having a facility next to a school where people are allowed to, people who are still using drugs should be living. It's inappropriate to have this kind of facility next to a school.
So your concern is much more fundamental to the question that you're asking. The siting of the facility is not something that I can address with the question that you're asking.
Let's say someone goes into the backyard and is using fentanyl, and there's traces of fentanyl on the property.
Have you experienced that?
No, but there are housing facilities all over town that are having problem with drug dealers coming onto the premises and using drugs. There was a woman and her child in an elevator in a facility, a subsidized rents facility, that got very sick. This was in the Willamette Week, and I'm sure you saw this article. There was also this article last week about the Clinton Triangle, even though it's run by another nonprofit. Sure. These problems are bound to come up, and I'd like to know, do you have a data collection procedure for all of the facilities so that people can check up and see how these programs are actually working and see which one is the most effective? You say, what would I have you do? I would like to be able to study who is actually doing a good job of managing these kinds of complicated problems. Fentanyl is a very, very dangerous drug, and I don't even think healthcare providers really have a handle on how to handle addiction or emergencies. It's a very difficult and complicated and murky situation every time.
So if I can hop in here, if you were to see somebody, like you said, out in the yard or near the school using any
on the street,
using any form of drug,
right,
we would want to know. And then we would work with the site provider to have their case managers work with that individual to address that challenge. So if you, in the future, were to see something like that, you could either reach out to the site provider if you felt comfortable, or even Lottie and myself via our Good Neighbor Agreement Community Advisory Committee, and share some details. You could say maybe there was someone with a hat, baggy jeans, certain emblem on their t-shirt, and we were seeing that and we believe they're in the Safe Rest Village. Well, let us know, and then we can work with the appropriate people. I just don't want us to get caught up into a lot of what if situations, because it's not a perfect world, and I totally understand. And I am also someone that doesn't enjoy the fact that the city has a fentanyl epidemic. We're in an emergency declaration to deal with that. So I would just want to be careful about going down rabbit holes of a bunch of what ifs.
It's not a rabbit hole, it's a reality. Rabbit hole is some kind of vague
You're right.
statement
You're
about the whole situation. I'm going to
You're
talk to you
correct.
about the Willamette Center in Selwood. There are
Okay.
satellite camps and there is drug dealing going on directly across the street. And the neighbors are calling repeatedly about what's going on at the Willamette Center in Selwood. And it is exactly the same situation. And the neighbors are calling repeatedly. The safety committee of the Selwood Neighborhood Association, the people on that committee are really having a hard time even communicating with the people that operate that shelter. Now, what would you recommend they do when they see drug dealing right outside and tents, satellite tents directly across the street? What then? What do they do?
We can't speak to the Selwood Center. That is not affiliated with our work. What we can speak to is we're here tonight. We're going to be here continually, and we're going to keep getting feedback. So I don't know if the Willamette Center has meetings like this that they attend. Sounds like maybe not. But we're hoping that we're showing our best foot forward here by hearing these things and being open to talking about them.
Let me just
Hold
say
on.
there
Hey, wait a second, please.
and there
Please,
needs to
Mrs.
be
Brunette, Mrs.
consequences.
Brunette, please.
There needs to be
Please.
rules and consequences, Moses, and there cannot be a sliding scale here because this is impacting our neighborhoods and it will impact property values as well. There is
I
no
understand,
denying
Mrs.
it.
Brunette, but you're also dominating the conversation when there's other people that would like to speak. And so please be respectful.
I am respectful. I am respectful, and I need some respect from everyone in this group that are managing the situation that has to understand how this has impacted this neighborhood and how it will impact this neighborhood.
All right. Well, we also have right now 2 other people that would like to ask a question. And we also have gone 23 minutes over time. And so now we're starting to take in time, other people's time. So I'm going to ask Corinne to ask her question. The Welches can ask their question, and then we're going to wrap up. Corinne, you first, please.
Thank you. Corinne Wallace. I had a question, and hopefully this hasn't already been discussed since I had to step away for a little bit, but is there, and Scott, I'm glad that you're here if you're taking on some management of the site. Has there been any discussion on introducing an on-site regular NAAA meeting to provide services for the people who live there? Is that something that's been under discussion? So we can try to get a little bit more proactive and offer services to people who are struggling with something on that scope.
Well, do something about it then, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Corinne.
Mhm.
That's a great idea. And we are not at all opposed to that possibility. Our goal is to make it service enriched for folks who are suffering from a panoply of issues that we have been very successful at helping. Unfortunately, the Willamette Week article didn't mention the hundreds and hundreds of people who weren't doing any of those things and who did get housed and get service, and the one staffer who was appropriately dealt with and is no longer there. So I would suggest that for any of those things, if there's good ideas from the community about how we can elevate these folks and deal with those issues, absolutely. We would have to obviously go through all of the nerdy stuff about, making sure we're not, violating any code or whatever, which is fine. We can get around that. People, they reveal things in NA meetings, and so we'd have to do all the homework to make sure that's proper. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something that we've talked about in a lot of these meetings, but it hasn't been implemented yet. And I think it would be a pretty simple, very high value add, the weekly hour on that site that could add a lot of benefit to the folks. And then also bring a sense of community to the residents of the Safe Rest Village. And then if there is anything that we can do to try to break down some of the barriers between local community and the people who are in the Safe Rest Village, anything that separates that or breaks down that barrier, and just has benefit for all. I know that there is a lot of conflict and a lot of things that are hard for everybody that are involved. And I'm insulated from it, so I'm away from it. But I would like to try to support any way that I can. So Scott, if there is a way that you and I can connect offline about starting a meeting, I've had experience in training in NA and AA. So I mean, if it's me showing up once a week on a
Yeah.
Wednesday morning, I mean, I'll do it.
Be careful, we might take you up on that. I would also just add in terms of that, the service menu. One of the things that I was very proud of in managing 2,100 beds in LA was we had the idea with the community groups to do mobile medical services. So we would have doctors and nurses come on site. There were nursing schools who were amazing to work with. The community bonds that build is amazing. The dignity that it provides to the folks who are trying to get well is incredible. And so I would like to see as many wonderful opportunities as we can combine with you and the community to give. I'm open to all of that discussion for sure. And I know it's not just me, of course, but absolutely.
Very good, Scott. Thank you. One last question from the Welshes, or I noticed you put your hand down.
By the way,
Wait.
Laudy,
Sorry, go ahead.
Henrik and Laudy, and I think maybe Scott as well. I just want to let you know I support the village. I didn't want to give you the impression that, you know, you got to make sure you got all the right stakeholders there and that you spend enough time in the problem space as opposed to the solution space. I'll send you that information as well. And Laudy, you've got my email address, so I'll be able to get copies to all of you.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
And I want to say that, you know, we accept all people's feelings about this shelter. I think Hendrik, Scott, and I are under no illusions that this is an easy ask of anyone. What we're hoping will come with this expansion is that it's both an expansion in size, but more importantly, it's an expansion in services and value to the neighborhood, right? This is a big shelter, but we don't want it to just be about the shelter. We want it to be hopefully like a part of the community that, you know, we can funnel resources towards and make it a success for both the people within the shelter and for the folks outside of it.
Okay. The conversation continues. Laudy, Scott, and Henrik, thank you for your time tonight. We will have additional conversations on this for sure.
Yep.
And as this progresses.
My
So,
pleasure. Thank
yeah.
you all for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, apologies all for my team screen. The
No,
inner
I
workings of
appreciate-
government. So, thank you.
Yeah, you know, and I want to just wrap this up by saying too, you know, what with this new form of government that's coming into next year, it will be, I think us as citizens will have more opportunity to be able to directly talk to the policymakers. I think that's one of the challenges that I think all of us can agree on, that I don't see Dan Ryan here. I don't see Ted Wheeler here. I see intermediaries talking for them, and I get that. But it seems to me the leadership isn't here. And, you know, with this new form of government, we have an opportunity to be able to have those decision makers have to be a part of our conversations, because that's their job, you know. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll see how that, hopefully things can be different. So
Great. Appreciate everyone's time.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I do have a question from someone here in the audience. Please go ahead.
Oh, I just had a question about the GNA. I mean, the city's been, you know, essentially ignoring it and kicking it down the road for 2 years. The current shelter operator's contract ends in just a few months. Should the city actually manage to come to terms with the neighborhood association and adopt a GNA, that GNA would not be binding on a different shelter operator, would it? Especially since the current shelter operator's cost per unit is more than 2.5 times what, for example, Urban Alchemy is charging. It's entirely possible that if the project were bid out, the current operator would no longer have the contract after August. So would the city require, or would the joint office require any subsequent operator to agree unconditionally to the terms of the existing GNA? Thank you.
We are in budget conversations with Allgood. We have no plans at this time of removing Allgood from this site. They will remain the shelter operator. If the shelter operator did, for whatever reason, change, we would renegotiate the GNA, and that's within the GNA itself. We would announce that change, and we would renegotiate that GNA with the new shelter operator and with the CAC. But there's no plans for that at this time. So.
Yeah.
And I do want to say the cost per unit is always very complicated. I think it's important to remember that Multnomah is actually per unit the most expensive site to run because of its size. The bigger a site gets, the price comes down. And overall right now, Urban Alchemy is running some of our biggest sites. So I expect we see pretty comparable costs amongst all of our shelter operators when we really break down the numbers, and we expect kind of a similar thing when the shelter grows.
That's what I understand too. Okay. Oh, wait. Ah, sorry. Shit, no, it didn't shoot. No, it didn't. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Just make sure it's on. Is it on?
I can't hear you, Lisa.
Oh, switched on.
Nope.
Here.
So I think I did the math on the pods. The pods cost 16,500 each, and I divided that out. And my son is living in the Pearl, and his rent is $1,200 to $1,500 a month. It is costing as much for one pod as it does to house my son in the Pearl at $1,500 a month for a year.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember
in a house with a 600 square foot with a bathroom and everything. So that seemed awfully expensive to me. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So I think we see these units as assets. They're going to be used for at least the next 5 years. And it's not just one person living in them, right? It goes over a period, it accounts for a period of time. And each unit will be filled for 3 to 9 months, depending on the participant. And there's turnover within that, right? I can't speak to the exact numbers of all of that, right? But yes, ideally, we would love for everyone to be in an apartment with their own bathroom and their own shower, but we just do not have enough of those right now. This is an interim solution while we are building all of that housing that needs to be built so that everyone can have that space and live in an apartment that's appropriate for them. But yes, each unit is about $16,000. It's not the most expensive unit, believe it or not. It's actually a mid-range unit for the type of work that we're doing. And we find it to be the most durable and the most appropriate for the kind of work we're doing of trying to just fill an interim need while we're building capacity for housing. If you have specific questions
yeah,
on the cost, you can email them to me as well.
No, that's what it boils down to fundamentally is the lack of housing. I mean, all right. Okay, it is 8:35. I still have a rest of my agenda to do out of respect for everybody else that has other parts of my agenda. We're going to close this discussion, but it's for at least for this evening. I'm sure we'll be talking more about it. Lottie, thank you. Hendrik, thank you. And also to the new gentleman, his name escapes. Scott, pardon me. Thank you very much. To be continued. Okay, thank you again. Okay. Next up on the agenda, I do want to talk about, we've gone through the committee reports, we did community events, we did livability. We have left public safety and transportation and budget and finance. Beth, are you still on the line? Beth, you're on. Sorry to call on you so quickly here, but Beth, you're on mute. How about you, Stefan? Are you available?
Hey, Moses. Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Oh, good. Okay, Beth, I'll come back around to you, hon. All right, Stefan, let's go ahead and talk transportation, please.
Sure. Let me give everybody a quick recap, super brief. As you all know, there's we did not get the Dolph chicanes installed. I did ask Scott Cohen if that funding is available still, have them consider Southwest 35th to use as chicanes, and he has put that in the queue, saying that it wouldn't be any sooner than summer of 2025 that you would see any improvements there, but it also has to get through one hurdle with traffic engineers. Might review Southwest 35th and determine it's too busy or it's not set up right for chicane. So we'll see. I did hear that 35th and Falcon is still in the queue to get built. They're going to close the slip lane. However, we should anticipate it by the end of summer. And I did ask Scott Cohen, he's also running that project at PBOT. I did tell him it'd be great to have it done by time they do the Sunday Parkways in Multnomah like they did last year. And he said that's a great target and it can help motivate the PBOT staff to get that done. And then lastly, since I'm on the Fixing Our Streets Oversight Committee, I've been told that I'm not allowed to promote the renewal of the gas tax. But I will just say that if that gas tax is renewed, we are doing our best to try to get safety improvements on 35th and Multnomah. It's the last pedestrian crossing of Multnomah that hasn't had any recent safety improvements, such as like enlarged curbs like we just saw going over by the post office recently. And then lastly, we were invited by Oregon Walks. They're a nonprofit group that tries to have enhanced better funding and enhanced safety for active transportation uses of our roadway throughout Oregon, but they are very active in Portland, and they've asked our neighborhood association and also the Maplewood School District Parent-Teacher Association to sign on to a letter that they are writing to Director Williams of PBOT that asked for the Portland Clean Energy Community Benefits Fund, or the PCEF. You may know that PCEF had a budget surplus. So in a sense, it's kind of like some sort of kicker, and that someone needs to try to figure out where this extra money is going to go. They are asking it to go to sidewalks to schools. Basically, they want to ask for $60 million of that extra PCEF money to get funneled into PBOT to build sidewalks within 1 mile of schools. And so I would like to motion that the Multnomah Neighborhood Association Transportation Committee sign on to this letter as a supporter.
I second
Wonderful.
the motion.
Very good. Thank you. I'll take that. This is a motion that is coming from from a committee, a standing committee. It doesn't require a second, but I do want to put it under new business so that we can vote on it during the new business section, which was coming up right after the
Perfect.
committee report. So Stefan will certainly do that, and with the remaining, and with the remaining board members. Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
All right.
Let's see who else now. We've got Beth. Are you available now? You're still on mute. Oh, darn it. All right, here. Let's do this here. Okay, how about Tad? Tad, are you still around? Are you through?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. All right, Tad. Hello.
Hi there.
How about we talk about budget and finance and standing rules, and then we'll go into the last remaining ones, the public safety and equity.
Yes. All right, let's start with what we'll call my final treasurer's report. And that is that we have $2,092.51 in our checking account at Umpqua Bank. And I am ready to pass the password for online banking over to Peter when he is ready. As you and I have discussed, Moses, I'm resigning as treasurer effective right now, really having given that last report. And so I'm no longer a member of the board, but I'd like to be, so I can continue as a member of both the Budget and Finance Committee and the Standing Rules Committee. For the Budget and Finance Committee, I sent just today, Corinne has seen it, a sample of what I'm going to recommend to the committee as a budget report. It has a column for each month, a row for each category, or in our case, I think we're going to want to use the chart of accounts that Peter has developed. And it's designed to show clearly at any moment how each category's expenses compares to the budget for the year. We don't have an approved budget yet, but we got to start somewhere. And so Moses, you'll see that in your email. Concerning the Budget and Finance Committee, I am not available to chair that committee. And I had expressed that to Peter, but I don't think he understood that. I heard you say earlier, Moses, that Peter and Corinne are going to be co-chairing the committee, but I propose to all concerned here a little different separation. That is, Peter as treasurer and Corinne as committee chair, Budget and Finance Committee chair, which we've already all seen that she's really been developing the agenda for that meeting and keeping things moving. And that creates an even better partnership between Peter and Corinne than being co-chairs. Moving on to Standing Rules Committee. The committee is meeting every other Thursday, and we are developing an operations manual primarily for meetings, and that built with some elements that are already in our bylaws, our new approved bylaws. And we are also developing standing rules that are meant to be approved by this board in the form of motions, and those will go into the operations manual also. So the operations manual is kind of a list of standing rules. Questions?
Hearing none, that makes, Tad, I appreciate your suggestion about appointing Corinne as the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. That does make sense.
All right.
Let me see here. Let me answer this really quick here. Okay, right now at the board, at the, okay, thank you very much for that report, Tad. And I'll follow up with you tomorrow and we'll do those suggestions. And the operating manual is going to be, that's pretty important. So.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Actually, thank you, sir. Okay. Where are we at here? Okay. Will, how about we do equity right now? You want to give your equity report?
Sure.
Thank
Sure.
you.
I'll do an equity report. We put a written report into the meeting materials, so I don't have to be detailed on that report. I'd rather not be, given the length of the meeting and the things we had to do. But we have these are the areas we are covering. One is accessibility, which is in our bylaws as one of the equity commitments, along with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're concerned that our website isn't really accessible and maybe our other media. So we're working on getting that corrected. The Safe Risk Village we have some questions about it, which can wait. We are working on racial equity, partnering with Southwest Equity Coalition. I have done some more on a demographic survey of the neighborhood, looking at how Multnomah ranks compared to other neighborhoods in various things such as income level, education level, numbers of people renting, and so on. It turns out in most cases, we are boringly average. We're kind of in the middle of the neighborhoods on most of the characteristics. So we're not rich like the rest of Southwest. We're not poor like the other parts of town. We're just kind of middling. And then I would like us to do some form of equity training, but training has a lot of different parts to it. And I'd like it to be something that people say, I would like to learn this stuff and how I would prefer to do it, rather than just pulling out some sort of package or get some sort of a organization to train. So that as you know, you heard me, I want equity, diversity, access, and so on to be something that is a natural part of who we are as a neighborhood, that it's something that we can get behind for everybody, and that is a somewhat qualitatively different approach to equity. Taking care of people who have been impacted by injustices is a very important part, but it's everybody on board in equity. So if you have ideas about what sort of training you'd like to have, or who you would like to have trainer, or where you want to go with it, please let me know. equity@mnapdx.org, and let's talk about it. That's basically where I am. You can read the report online at the meeting materials. Any thoughts, questions? Okay, that's it.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. And I'm going to try one more time to see if I can get Beth's attention. Beth, are you available can you hear me, Beth? You're still on mute. I see she's on there. Oh, darn it. Okay. Well, shoot. Beth, there's been some good stuff that's been going on the public safety side of things. We have recently done our coffee with the cop and done some networking with the neighborhood liaison, the police that are designated out here in our neighborhoods. And next month, we plan to have one of them be attending the meeting and give a report and do some Q&A, starting that back up again. I don't want to speak for Beth here on some of the other topics, but all right, for the time being, we'll just let them sit. And if she can hear me, we should say something about it. Okay, moving on to the new business. On the new business, we do now have a motion from the Transportation Committee that has been presented. It does not require a second. It is, Stefan, can you share with us one more time your motion and right now, and also I just want to mention that there's only one board member, voting member, and that's myself here in person.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, excellent. So here's the letter from Oregon Walks, directed to Director Williams Peabody executive team. It's talking about the PSEF fund. It's saying that there is a responsibility for primary students living within 1 mile of school to get to their own transportation. Basically, buses only are for kids that are further out. And that basically, here's the main ask. We are asking Bureau of Transportation to join us in applying to the Portland Clean Energy Fund to invest $60 million over the next 5 years to complete safe routes to school so that every student, especially in high equity area, has a safe and accessible way to get to school. Lastly, there's no funding, in place to ever do this work. And they're saying that this PSEF money is focused on climate change, walking emits no greenhouse gases, and basically we want to teach our kids that active transportation is a good thing, getting out of car dependency community. And here's some of the places that have already signed on. And then the other last bit is that I'm trying to also build goodwill with Oregon Walks when it comes to asking to make the final list for the Fixing Our Streets 3, if that does pass, for our neighborhood project. I want to do everything we can to make it easy for them to say, hey, this list looks good, and this 35th and Multnomah is an important project and should make the list too. That's my pitch.
Okay, very good. Now, right now we have myself in person. We also have board members, Stefan, Tad, Diane, Pam, and Beth online.
And Will.
And Will, pardon me.
So that makes 7
Okay,
as I counted, so we barely have a quorum.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect.
So let's go. Okay, yeah. So the motion on the floor is that the M&A should adopt this, sign on to this letter in support of the Oregon Walks program, asking the Bureau to utilize, to join us in applying for the Clean Energy Fund to invest $60 million over the next 5 years to complete safe routes to schools.
Down from about 13.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so for the voting members, all those in favor of the motion, can you please raise your hand or say aye?
Aye.
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 Okay. All those against, say nay. Very good. On a voice vote, and I see a raised hand here. Let's see here. Based off of the.
I was just raising my hand for the vote.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Diane. I'm sorry, I got that confused with the question. So based off of that vote, the voice vote, that is approved. So that's wonderful. Let me know if I have to sign anything, but otherwise, it can be coming from the Transportation Committee and their chair, Stefan.
For the record, the vote I counted was 6-0 in favor. Chair does not vote.
Thank you for specifying that.
Excellent. Thank you. I will reply to my contact at Oregon Walks.
Excellent. Okay, that's good. Seeing that there's no other new business, the last item on our agenda is to confirm the regular meeting for the May 14th. Any kind of agenda or information from that. What I can say is that we will have a police officer. We plan to have a police officer from the local precinct come and speak at our meeting give an update on the neighborhood and answer questions from folks. There is also, am I missing anything? Will, I'm sure that it's Safe Routes Village is going to be another topic of discussion at the next meeting. I'm assuming that the Good Neighbor Agreement, that's when we will be voting to approve or to sign whether or not we will approve the Good Neighbor Agreement as a neighborhood association.
I believe, if I may, just procedurally, obviously we haven't got a GNA to even look at now. If the negotiation team can meet in enough time before the next May meeting, then we can publish the proposed GNA and see whether we have enough to vote it in May, or we would have to extend it one more month. But that's to be said. Right now, it's looking very close. The latest GNA, just for everybody's, I'm sure for everybody's information, the GNA is published in the meeting materials for this meeting, and it also is a link to it in the hot topics on the main page of our website, where you can take a look at the one. It's for the April 5th version of the Good Neighbor Agreement, which is open to anyone to take a look at. And if you send comments to cac@mnapdx.org, that will reach the negotiating team, which does include at least one person who's a near neighbor, and we'll take those comments into consideration in our discussion. Okay?
Very good. If there's no other business, I would gladly accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And we shall thank you. And see you all next week. Mr. Welsh, please do send me a copy of that. I would like to, I'm very interested in what your negotiate or your conflicts document that you had spoke of. Thank you. All right, good night and all the best, everyone.